Hello. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are just a few moments away from starting our live premiere of Season 2, Strength and Grace Off the Mat, with your co-hosts, myself, Sarah, and Meg. We are excited, to say the least. We just have to figure out our technology for a moment. That's why we started a little bit early. If not, we can just jiggle it. It's all good. Cool.
All right, everyone, we can see you in the chat, and we can see you. You know what might be better is if you scooch a little bit that way, and then this way I can reach, just in case I have to touch that.
Let's be responsible about this.
Scoot.
Get out of the way.
Weird COVID scoot, hey? Welcome, everyone. First episode where we're in masks, so that's super exciting.
My face is sweating already.
I know. Well, hopefully, good thing we have these high quality mics, and you can hear us. So we'll give it another minute because we are a little bit early, and we're happy to see that everything is working. Yay! That's like amazing just compared to last year. For those of you that have followed us, well, we've never done the podcast live. This is a first. but for those of you that did our Facebook lives, those were a disaster and a half. And
to say the least.
but you figure it out. So if you are here, say hi. We want to see you in the chat. The point of this is that we get to connect. This is why we're here, and we're really excited to have you. Yay! Hi, Frank. So nice to see you.
Hola, Francis.
Aren't you proud of us? Frank is off site, and we made this happen without our IT guy. But
who needs a man?
Full disclosure, I did message him earlier.
Just one little thing.
I did. So I think what we'll do is we'll just give it one more minute and let people tune in. But we are so happy to be here. And you can't really tell we're smiling, but we are smiling. And you'll just have to look at our eyes. It was funny. I was actually putting on a little bit of makeup, and then I was like, "Why?"
I haven't worn face makeup in like over a month. It's been fantastic.
It's nice, hey?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I see some more people tuning in. Say hi, and that's nice of you to say, Frank. We appreciate it. We're so pumped to be here. So we are going to introduce our lovely IT lady for the day. Miss Alicia is behind the scenes, and we're super grateful and appreciative of that, as always. So I think what we'll do is we'll just get started, and people will tune in as they tune in. And let's kick off the official start of Strength and Grace podcast. Alicia, give it a go. Okay. How'd you like that official entry?
So official.
Welcome, season 2.
I can't believe it. Can you believe we're on season 2?
No, actually.
What happened to season 1? Where did that time go?
It was really fun, though. I have to say, I really underestimated how fun this project would be. Yeah. And I'm really grateful and really excited to be here.
Yeah, I remember before we even started season 1, because this idea has been in the back of our minds for how many years now. And we sat on it for quite some time. And it wasn't literally until the pandemic hit that we actually put this idea into fruition, or you did. And when you approached me with it, I was like, oh man, we're really doing this. Yeah. And that was when I had a little bit of anxiety, but then there was so much excitement that surrounded it. And then look where we are now. And I'm so excited that we're already here, back for season 2.
Totally. And, I had the pleasure of revisiting all of our episodes over the last couple weeks. And we had some incredible guests and some incredible conversations. And so it was really great it's great to be back and really excited. So if you don't already know who we are, my name is Meg, and
I'm Sarah.
We are the hosts of Strength and Grace podcast. And if you haven't already checked in, so hello, Odessa. So happy that you are checked in.
Hello, beautiful.
Say hi. The whole point point of why we're here today and doing this live is that we want to connect, and we'll get a little bit deeper into that in a moment as to why. We will be airing this episode after on the weekend, but we thought we'd try something fun, and then maybe let's just give a little bit of an overview, maybe of the intention of why we have this podcast.
Yeah, so we started this whole podcast, I think, to really help bring wellness off of the mat as well, because beyond just the physical practice of yoga is being able to stay mentally well, emotionally well, socially well, when we have these different kinds of things that try to pull us away from that sense of being connected. And so the whole intention behind this podcast is to really offer a space to connect and to really live your yoga off of the mat by not only having conversations with ourselves, but also, especially in last season, with some of YEG's finest in their fields.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think it's so important. I mean, Navina is here. Our actual mission as a company is to act as a catalyst for growth. And so this just really became a branch that just made sense. And it's an aspect of growth in all aspects of our life, I should say. So what did we learn last year? Well, we learned quite a few things. Obviously, we learned that, there's a lot about technology that we did learn. And I know that he's tuned in, and this is not just to get points from my husband, but we really learned a lot from Frank, and he taught us a lot. And but then we also learned how capable we are once you just actually get into it and learn. And give yourself time if you're doing a live event. We were here this morning, we got it all set up, did a little test, and there was no stress getting this going. We've learned a lot over the year as to what it means to build valuable partnerships. And working with, like Sarah said, some of YG's truly finest entrepreneurs and, community makers. It was really great to get to connect with those people. So you'll notice that we never once did our podcast virtual. We always had guests in-house, and we always made sure it was really safe and clean. And we'll get a little bit more into why, but this is something that's really important to us is having that face-to-face connection, and we'll do whatever it takes. We'll wear masks now if we have to, that's fine. But one of the things that we really also learned, two more things. I'm not sure why, but the government has it in for the fitness industry. I don't know why. I think that it's really highlighting an issue of what we value as a society, because well, we won't get into that. That's a different podcast, and we're definitely not here to talk about COVID. But that was something we definitely learned, is that as a culture and as a society, we need to place more value on our mental and physical well-being, okay? And then what I really learned, and what I know Sarah has learned, and what I know Alicia has learned, is that we are all so incredibly capable of so much more than we really think, because we're going on 8 months now of closure as a studio, and here we are. And structurally, as a company, I mean, don't get me wrong, we are struggling financially. It's a strain, let's put it that way. But structurally, we're stronger than we've ever been, because we had to get there, and we had to figure it out, and we had to dig deep into the roots of why we're here, right? And our values as a company. And so it's really brought us stronger together. So those are some of the things that we've learned. And then, well, let's kind of dive into why we're excited about next year.
Well, I'm really excited about this year, because if anything, last year taught us that we are more resilient than we ever could imagine. And this year, I think it's about channeling that resiliency into a sustainable connection, and how we choose to connect with not only ourselves, but with the world around us and the people around us as well. So for me, I'm excited to be back here and having these conversations and building connections in new ways with new people.
Yeah, and that's what's, I think, really, I mean, that's our theme of the year is connection. and that's why we kicked it off the way we did, is because I think that we can all relate to some level and some degree that we're all experiencing some level of social anxiety right now. So if you're in a grocery store and it's a little bit busy, we get freaked out by that. And to me, that's a really big red flag that we need to be careful, because as humans, we are literally wired for connection, and we need that human, maybe not touch. It's a very important part of connection for sure when appropriate, and when safe to do so. But literally, like, that's why it feels so good to get even a gentle adjustment. We don't do heavy adjustments here, never did. But a gentle adjustment, just that little touch is actually really quite healing to the soul. So why we're also excited is that, again, we can take our lessons that we learned from year one, and we're switching it up a little bit this year in terms of the format of how we run the podcast. We really want you to get to know not just ourselves, but our why as to why we're here on a little bit of a deeper level. And also, you're going to get to know a lot more of our instructors as well, as we're going to be bringing teachers on as guests, getting to know them, because we have some of the best instructors in Edmonton with some incredible inspirational stories. And so you're going to get to know them on a better level. And of course, we're still going to have amazing guests, because that was something that we were really, really grateful for. And yeah, connection. That's why we're here this year.
The big C word.
Yeah. Yeah. So much so that we've kind of altered a little bit of how we operate as a company, and we've made that one of our core values. We have altered that a little bit, and I think that that's important as you grow and as you go along, is that you check in. And that was one of the biggest things I find. I don't know if you watched all the clips, but I'm sure you did, with the authenticity clips that we were sharing over the week. Is that was one of the common themes I saw. Trust your gut was a theme over a few of the guests, and checking in, right?
Yeah.
Like having a regular check-in as to what fuels you to move forward in a sustainable and valuable way, right? Because things change. Things have totally changed in the last year, right?
Have they ever? Yeah. And I think, and like you said, that was one of the big values that people held really, really highly when we asked that question. And I think it's really important, because it's so easy to become disconnected with all of this information that's coming at us.
Yeah.
The world that we live in right now is changing on the daily. So it's really easy to lose sight of what we're doing and why we're doing it. So if we're able to stay connected to our values, if we're able to have that constant check-in practice, a daily gratitude practice, that those things are easy and effective ways to maintain that internal connection. So yeah.
Absolutely. So before we kind of move in, we've got some exciting things happening today. And before we go there, I think we should check in with each other a little bit before we move forward.
Well, why don't I ask you the question first, because you have had quite a few changes over these last few months.
To say the least.
Since we wrapped up season 1, you have recently become a new mom to literally the cutest baby. I can't have babies because hers are too cute, honestly.
She's pretty darn cute.
Oh my God, she's so cute. Anyways, so since becoming a new mom, you're still a business owner, you're still taking care of yourself. And so what are some things that have shifted for you? And how have you noticed any challenges that have come up since becoming a new mom and having this routine kind of shaken up? So how is that, what does that look like for you now?
Yeah, obviously it was the biggest shift initially, right off the bat, and it really has, out of anything, and it might sound a little bit cliche, but it has really, really taught me to be incredibly present. So there is just so much going on right now in my world, and it's just taught me that I have to be fully present with what I'm doing in that moment, because I found myself, first of all, trying to do too much, and then really, just so stressed all the time. I just couldn't, my brain was just always on. And I got to the point where it was like I was trying to just anytime Monroe would sleep, I was like, okay, I got to get to my computer. I got to do this. I got to do that. And so my first thing that I did was, because movement, there's no question, is my medicine. So my self-care practice is still really strong, and that's something that I don't let waver. So when Monroe was born, it was very different until I was physically okay to exercise, but I still had a movement practice. I think within 3 days, it was like yin and gentle for 6 weeks, but I had some sort of movement practice in the morning, and that was the very first thing I did. And then I would get into the rest of the stuff, and that shifted now, because I found myself one day getting a little bit frustrated with Monroe, because I needed to work, and I had all these things going on my mind, and I just was like, whoa. Yeah. This is not right. This is not cool. So immediately, I have this beautiful little girl in front of me, and that's not fair to her. So I switched things, and now the first thing I do when I wake up, I do a couple little housekeeping things really quickly, and then I just work. I dive into work, and the second Monroe gets up, I'm all hers, and I work out with her, and I'd much rather her watch me lift a kettlebell or do a plank or, do a vinyasa rather than looking at a screen. Another self-care thing that I've done, and I'm not perfect at it because I do handle all of our social media accounts. But when I'm nursing her, I read a book.
Yeah.
And so I try to do that. And that's a little bit of a pause for me, or I just pay attention to her. It's really special bond when you're nursing with your baby. And she's much more interactive now. So she just looks at you with those eyes and you just melt. And I just like really every day is different. She's normally a champ when it comes to sleeping, and the last couple nights have been up on the hour every hour. So I woke up this morning and my run that I was going to go on just didn't happen. And there was zero guilt or zero, you know, you just do what you can do every day. And I've really been careful. I don't know if you've noticed, but I don't say sorry in my emails anymore. I just say
Very
thanks
important.
for your patience. And you just do what you can do. We're closed. We're doing the best we can. And it's totally different when you're a mom, and it's totally different when you're trying to be all of these roles. And number one, it starts with me. So the big thing that I've been doing now that's really helped me is journaling. And I can thank you for that, because that comes from the self-love challenge is when I got back into it. And I think it's just so important because it allows you to really check in with where you're at right now. We're so focused on where we want to be, and whether you're a business owner or not right now, you can't plan ahead. Like today we had a meeting talking about events that are coming up and fundraisers we want to do, and there's just only so much we can do right now.
Exactly. All we can do is literally all we can do. And if we put on these too heavy of expectations upon ourselves or how we want things to look, it's just going to lead to disappointment if they're not met. And so if we can stay malleable with how the world works and how we work within the world, then it's a lot easier to find joy.
Yeah. Totally.
I feel like, yeah.
And my other little trick is just takeout.
Perfect.
Yeah. So that works really well too. So
good.
Yeah. Good. And so that's me, and it'll shift. Little one's turning 3 months next month. So it'll shift on a weekly basis, I'm sure. And that's me. But when it comes to you, you've had lots of shifts in your life as well in the last couple months. And one thing that I've been really impressed with, because I think that, you know, our listeners need to understand how much the industry has shifted for yoga and to be, not even just yoga, to be any kind of instructor right now in the fitness world. It's exhausting because now we are demonstrating the entire thing, or you are. And so I've been watching your Instagram, and if you don't watch her Instagram, you need to check it out, because your progress has been very inspirational in your strength. It's very clear that you're not losing that commitment to yourself and to your practice, because you don't do those things in classes. We might prep them, but it's pretty inspirational. So how are you keeping up with your own practice when you're teaching so much?
I am carving out the time for myself, because I know if I don't schedule that time in throughout the day, I'm not going to get it done, because I am teaching so much with my private clients, with the classes that we offer through Navina online. It can get really easy to let my self-care practices kind of fall or take a back seat. And so by dedicating that time, literally putting it into my calendar, saying, okay, I have this hour or this 45 minutes, I'm going to move my body. I'm going to do a yoga practice. I'm going to I went for a run on Wednesday. But anyways, I just choose to do something for myself that nourishes my body. I know my Mondays specifically are quite busy. And so I don't have quite as strong of a practice for myself that day. I'll still do yoga to some extent. I'll meditate. I'll do a gentle practice. I'll roll out with my therapy balls. But I make an effort to really move my body every single day, because like you, movement is medicine for me. And I've really needed that movement and that consistency for myself, especially with the shifts that I've gone through these last few months as well.
Yeah. And so so on Mondays you're really busy, but is there any kind of regular, maybe daily practice that you have that's like an ingredient to avoid burnout?
Yeah. So I have also come to really realize the importance of getting a good sleep. So I go to bed at a decent time every hour. I have a little bedtime thing set up with my phone that reminds me if I'm at a certain time and I haven't started to wind down yet, it'll remind me that you need to start winding down. And so getting a good sleep is first and foremost the most important thing for me. And then also, again, journaling. I spend my first 5 minutes in the morning writing in my gratitude journal, my 5-minute journal that I have. And I've also really, really started to appreciate cooking really well for myself. And I've gotten back into meal planning and prepping. So I'm not last minute scavenging. What can I eat? Especially for those nights that I'm later at the studio later on, it's hard to come home and the last thing I want to do is come home at 9 p.m. and cook a meal for myself. But if I have something that's easily available to me, that's healthy and nourishing my body so that I can get have the energy that I need for the next day, then it's a lot more of a sustainable practice for me, I've found. So eating really well, sleeping really well, and just remembering to be grateful for the little things have made my movement practice a lot more sustainable in itself.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Well, like I said, if you haven't checked her out on Instagram, you need to do so because it's pretty cool to watch. Checking in. Hi, Caitlin, and hi, Vera. So happy that you're joining
ladies.
us. If you haven't checked in already, check in with us because we want to hear from you. And we want to hear from you right now. So we want to check in with you as to, what are some challenges that you're currently facing when it comes to connection? Are you finding that, you feel stress or anxiety when you're surrounded by people, or what are the main hurdles that you're finding when it comes to connection? Because I know it takes effort right now to connect. We were kind of talking about so we're just going to chat until we hopefully see some response come up. And we were talking about, Zoom calls. And so I recently had one with my family and it was great. And it was only 5 people or 5 blocks, five different callers, I should say, on the phone. And then there can be big ones. And those are challenging. Like even when we have our staff meetings, that can be challenging because one person talks so how are you connecting with those groups and those people? I've been going for a lot of walks with my friends. Yeah.
It's really important. I went to the driving range yesterday and my friend went to the driving range and we were taking pictures and whatever, right? So it's nice to be able to connect with people, but it's all too easy to give up that sense of connection. I feel when we do face those little frustrations on Zoom or virtually or however we choose to meet, and it can be all too easy just to kind of give up wanting to connect like that. But what we don't realize is that connection is a pillar of mental health. Yeah. And when we take away our ability to connect, we're taking away our ability to be well mentally in a way. So it's as frustrating as it is sometimes, it's also a really great practice of patience as well. So if we just kind of learn to shift our perspective, our mindset around that, we start to view those as opportunities to practice mindfulness and patience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's challenging for sure, but it's all temporary, right? Just like this pandemic, we will be out of it hopefully sooner than later, and because of it, we'll be a lot stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that is absolutely clear. We're definitely going to be stronger on the other side of this. So we are going to get you all to speak at some point about connection. Caitlin, you find that, so Caitlin's saying that she finds it really tiring after you've hung out with someone in person. It's kind of draining at this point. So that's interesting. And it is, it's an interesting thing because it's a different way of actually, showing up for people. Right. And it's interesting. Like if we haven't done that in a long time, and that can create that's where this gets a little bit scary, is because if we're feeling drained from that action, then we might not necessarily want to do it again, right? That just puts up a bigger barrier to connect again. And this is why it seems, I don't know, I can relate a little bit, and then I can also relate on the other end of it. I can relate that it's been hard sometimes to set up communication and to set up that connection. But I find personally, once I've had the connection, I'm quite enthralled by it. Like I feel really, really good after.
Me too. And it can be hard because we have almost this anxiety around connecting with people now, which we'll get into in another episode for sure.
Yes.
But
it's its own episode.
It is its own episode. Stay tuned. But like I had a FaceTime with my best friend last week, and we FaceTimed for like 3 hours. Wow. And it had been so long since I had connected with her. But afterwards, I felt like, why haven't I done this more or sooner? Or, and so even though it might not be the connection that we think or how we want it to look or what we want it to look like, once you let go of those expectations and you just appreciate the connection for what it is, the ability to connect still, like think about this back in like the 1920s or whenever it was that was that last pandemic, and they didn't have Zoom. They didn't have these ways of connecting. So I think we're far better off in that way to be able to maintain our ability to connect. But it does take effort, but that effort is, to me, always so worth it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I agree. So let's ask a more simple question to our audience then. That's a more of like a yes or no question. Are you finding it difficult to connect right now? Is this a struggle for you? Yes or no, it's not. So we'd love to see kind of where people are at in terms of that. So if you can pop on that chat and just say yes or no. Yes means that you are finding it a struggle right now to stay connected, and no is that you're not. So while we let you kind of check in with that,
should we mention our sponsors?
I think so.
For our contest?
We have something really
our
exciting.
Giveaway. Dun, 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 dun. I need like a drum roll thing.
Yeah, we should have had drumsticks. I have little keychain ones. My brother actually made them for me.
Oh, nice.
He's a drummer. And so that would have been a good one, but we'll think of that next time. So we have a really fun contest that's going on, and you have to be tuned in live. So if you're listening to this on the weekend, you missed out. But
Oops.
Let's start with, Sarah, why don't you start with mentioning a couple of things?
So, well, I guess first and foremost, we're going to be donating a super cozy Navina yoga hoodie, as well as a half moon meditation bolster. So just like the bolsters that you see in studio, it's the same size, those cylindrical, beyond cozy bolsters that I use mine for almost every practice. I don't know about you at home, but
Always,
oh my God, it is the best thing ever. I can't stress having one at home enough. So we have a bolster, a hoodie to give away, and then our good friends over at Aura Yoga, which is, I should say, a Canadian-owned clothing company, has generously donated a $50 gift card for you to shop their entire line of clothing. And they're a company that I hold really near and dear to my heart. It's actually one of my girlfriends that owns the company, and she's all about giving back as well. And she has very similar values, just like Navina Yoga does. And so for every purchase, she'll plant a tree in your name.
Oh, cool.
So it's a really, really sweet way that she just started giving back. She's a new mama as well. She actually just had her little guy Oliver about 3 weeks ago now. Aww. So it's super cute. Lots of little yogi babies out in the world. But so with in addition to the bolster and the hoodie or the sweatshirt, you're also going to get that $50 gift card to shop. And do I ever recommend their loungewear sets? Oh my God, they
look amazing.
Their sweatpants, I live in them. I probably wear them more than I should admit, but they are the best.
Okay, well, there's a little hint as to how you could spend your gift card. We also are sponsored by Intelligent Change. So if you are not familiar with them, the 5-minute journal that actually Sarah was speaking about earlier is one of their products. I've found that really helpful. So that's what's in the prize pack, is the 5-minute journal. And it's just a way of checking in daily with what you're grateful for. And I mean, I think we all know that is incredibly valuable in our world and has the ability to shift your perspective. But the company itself is actually really, really amazing. I have been on their newsletter list for years, and I really recommend that even if you don't want to buy their products, that you just go on their newsletter. They have fantastic their quotes that they share, TED Talks that they share. They've just got really great articles, but I fully believe in their products. I use their productivity book. Now they have productivity sheets. They have all these new things. They even have a 5-minute journal for kids. So that's something really cool. Yeah, so they're a really cool company, and we really appreciate. They don't know me at all, and they were really supportive when I reached out. So that was amazing of them. And then last but not least, we're also sponsored by Wicked Petals. So this is this amazing local, handcrafted candles.
Their candles are amazing. Their lavender one I was burning last weekend, and I can't speak highly enough of them. The scent, and it's all natural.
Yeah, and she puts I haven't had the pleasure of meeting her in person yet, but we've just spoken via email, and I can just tell she's incredible. Puts nothing but love into her product. So your prize package is going to include a couple of those too, and we are going to be carrying them at the studio. So that should be coming. We're just finalizing the details. I mean, I know it's kind of silly. We're closed, and we're going to get something new, but we need some nice scents in our house right now.
Absolutely.
So we will be carrying them. We're really passionate about supporting amazing local artists, literally like that. So your prize pack is valued at over $350, and you have to be tuned in right now to win. So first of all, before we go anywhere, everybody is saying, first of all, that connection is challenging. So
I feel that.
Yeah, we all feel you. And Vera seconds the fact that those loungewears are very comfortable.
Right, Vera? You know where it's at, girl.
Yeah. So what we're going to ask you right now is, this is how that you can be entered into the contest, is that you have to set an intention and you have to verbalize that intention in our chat as to how you plan on embodying connection this year. Okay, did I get that right?
I think so.
Yeah. I think so. So you have till the end of the show. So feel free to think about that. But you do have to go ahead and include how you plan to embody connection this year. And we really, I mean, the whole intention of this podcast is support your mental well-being. And we just think that this is the pillar of how we do it, because there is a lot of, again, we're not valuing as a society that connection. And then now naturally what happens when we hide in at home and we're stuck inside all the time, then it's challenging. It's all this effort, right? And then there's anxiety around it. And so we've built up these walls now, and it's time that we start to break them down a little bit. And hopefully you can appreciate how much better you feel when we do keep ourselves connected with other people.
So Meg, then maybe I should ask you a question.
Yeah, sure.
How do you plan to embody connection more this year?
Oh, that's a good question. So my plan is, I've been really careful of checking in on my loved ones and not necessarily just family, but checking in on my friends, because for me this last year I've had so much going on, and I'm really about not being a victim and really about like, okay, this is an opportunity. But I just have not had any room to hold space for anybody else, literally. So everybody's going through crap right now. And I have not been there for my friends. I have not been there for some of my family members. And so my thing now is just really making sure that once a day I'm checking in on someone. It can be something as simple as a text message, but just like, hey, how did that thing go the other day? Hey, how did your midterm go the other day? My girlfriend's doing her master's right now, and I just like, I don't check in on her enough. And I don't, so things like that. And then I make sure that I'm scheduling at least 2 walking dates a week, so that I actually see people in person, and that I'm actually connecting with people.
Yeah.
It's effort, and it's interesting with all the stuff I'm juggling, but it's worth it. Yeah.
Always worth it.
Yeah. So how about you?
Well, for me, there's a couple different ways, I guess, that I'm choosing to embody connection, both with the people around me, but also really within myself too. Because I found with the shifts that I've gone through the last few months that I've felt really disconnected at times internally. And so for me, a part of that, maintaining that internal connection with myself, has been really setting boundaries on how much screen time I'm taking up, especially with my phone. So I've noticed with all of these shifts, it's all too easy to pick up your phone and just get a little dose of instant gratification. And that's not a real connection. It's not authentic. And so in realizing that, I've decided to put my phone down and do things that actually make me feel internally connected, whether that's going for a walk and not listening to music, listening to the sounds around me, looking around, right? Not down on my screen, or having a bath. And I found these really amazing bath bombs that I've been using, and they just wake up your senses with the scent of them and the warmth of the bath. And so just doing things that allow me to maintain that or find that internal connection have been really, really important. But then again, like you, also just checking in on my friends and my family. Like I'm very close with my family, and I'm usually, pre-COVID times, I would see my parents at least once or twice a month, and they live 2.5 hours away. But I would drive to see them, they would drive to see me. And now that we don't have that ability anymore, it's about just consistently catching up with them on the phone. And I chatted with them last night for over an hour, and that was amazing. But it's about carving out that time, because again, it can be all too easy to forget to, or to fill your time up with things that aren't necessarily as important. Because if you can scroll through Instagram for an hour, you can chat with your family for an hour.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And you'll feel much better because of it.
Of course.
And yeah, I think it's really important that we you said it best, like just internally connecting. Like we have to make sure that we're checking in with how we feel and how we're managing, because it is a day by day thing.
And honoring that too. I think, because there's going to be days, it's inevitable that we're going to have days where we feel more anxious or more feel fearful or stressed or whatever. And it's not necessarily about numbing those feelings, but learning to sit with them in a healthy way and realizing that it's all temporary. But it's okay to feel those things too, because those feelings, just like the joy and the love and the freedom that we feel too in our lives, is all what makes us human. And so I think if we're denying ourselves those feelings, and we're denying ourselves of being human to an extent. And I don't know, to me, that's not living. I want to feel it all. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, and you need to, in order to feel the highs, you got to feel the lows, right? And honor them, and then doing what nourishes you in that sense, in that moment. And you know, I've said it before, and like to my husband, and sometimes I'm just like, nope, I need to complain right now. Like I need you to hear me, and I need to complain, and I need to say that this sucks, and I need to sit in it for 20 minutes maybe, whatever, and then I can let it go, you know? Totally. And sometimes you just have to
and it feels good to let it out, right? Like, because I think if you keep things in, the more that you let in, the more that builds, and then eventually there's going to be some sort of explosion or whatever, right? And that's just not healthy.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to have outlets.
And it's okay to be frustrated by what's going on, and again, like, especially like there's so much of the restrictions and things that just don't make sense, and so it's okay to be frustrated, and it's okay to have those feelings. So Vera's checking in and just saying that, you know, she's going to release what is and keep me from connecting with others. Yeah, because that's the problem, is that, again, there's all these barriers that are naturally, maybe subconsciously or consciously being put up that we are keeping from other people. So keep that coming in if you're still thinking about it. Just put it out there.
I really like that one, Vera. In a book I was reading not too long ago, I think maybe Alicia's borrowing it right now, The Untethered Soul. And they talk, it's such a good book, but they talk about the barriers that we build up, whether we're aware of them or not, that cause us to, or inhibit us, I should say, from living a free life. And so we have to break down those barriers, whether it's fear or anxiety or the inability to connect. We have to push past those. We have to put the work in. But after we do so, we find that freedom, and it's profound. It's life-changing. So that's amazing, Vera. I really like that.
Yeah, it is. And it's challenging, and it's also exhausting, right,
and
Caitlin?
Humbling and frustrating and emotionally exhausting. Yeah, all of these things, but always worth it.
So before we move on, we also want to, so some of you have sent in some questions previously, so we'll touch on those, but we also want to hear from you if there is any questions that you have, regarding anything. Literally, it could be around the studio. It could be why we do things a certain way. It could be anything at all. Oh, Vera's reading that book right now. Nice. Well,
let me know what you think, Vera. Yeah, it's such a good book. It's one that honestly, one. Everybody, I don't want to dump my shoulds on people, but people should read it.
You should read it for sure. It's a really good book. So if you have any questions, we'd love to hear from them. Again, that's why we want to connect right now live. And so if you do have any questions, go ahead. We will address them right away. But we're going to dive into some of the questions right now while we wait for your responses. Some stuff that got sent to us previously, which we appreciated, and there's some really good questions.
Yeah.
So one of the first ones was, have you ever turned down a client?
Not for me in my yoga career, no. Kinesiology, yes.
Yeah, what does that look like?
So in my previous job, when I was doing kinesiology full time, I was working for a private company, and we would go, myself along with a physiotherapist, would go along to people's houses. Maybe they were in long-term care settings. Our population that we worked with was generally people that couldn't make it to a physio clinic on their own. So a lot of older populations, people with hip replacements, knee replacements, strokes, things like that.
Okay.
And it was wonderful. It was a wonderfully rewarding job, but there was sometimes after those assessments, because we would just get paired up with whoever could kind of take the client essentially. And so after those assessments, there wasn't a connection there. It wouldn't resonate. And I didn't think that I would be the best fit. We had other therapists there. So I would never leave a client high and dry, but I would always refer them to perhaps a different therapist or maybe even a different modality if it was out of my scope, because there's some things as a kinesiologist that obviously I can't do. So yeah, it's about being really honest with your ability and also being honest with the client as well, because they appreciate honesty. I know for myself, I wouldn't want to have a yoga instructor teach me private yoga if I didn't like their style of teaching or if I didn't resonate with them. Yeah. And so, and in doing that, I never burned any bridges. People were always very grateful that I was honest with them. And yeah, what about you?
Yeah. I've only ever actually had to do it once. And it was mostly just because they were quite disrespectful and didn't value me or my time. I work with some incredibly all my clients are executives and really, it has nothing to do with the amount of money, but they are very high status people. They have very important roles. Let's put it that way. That's kind of what I'm looking for. And so all my clients are still amazing and kind and the nicest people. And I had one that just straight up wasn't, and was very rude and wouldn't show up for appointments and wouldn't tell me. And so I would sit on the driveway waiting with zero response. I'd give it 10 minutes and then I would leave. And that happened a couple times. And then there was one little situation that just came up, and I just said, you know what, that's okay. I'm actually not going to take that money, and I'm just going to leave it with you, and it's just not a very good fit. Yep. So that was that. It was really actually quite empowering to not, to
have those boundaries for yourself.
I think no matter what you do, it doesn't matter. I had it once when I was a waitress, and it was a long time ago, and a client was really rude to me for no reason, and the manager told me that I had to go, basically in lesser words, go kiss their butt because it doesn't matter. The client's always right, and I just don't agree with that.
No.
And we're so lucky in this industry. We never have to deal with that because our yoga people are just incredible, and our community is exceptionally kind and wonderful. Yeah. And so we're so lucky we don't have to deal with anything like that. But back to the story is never let someone treat you less than you're worth.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. And you don't have to, you can leave with love and kindness, right? So hello, Bobby Joe. So nice to see you.
Hey, Bobby Joe.
It's been too long.
Miss you.
So yeah, that is something that has happened to me, and it was, everything was fine. Turned out fine.
Yeah.
I've been lucky.
Yeah, I think we've been very lucky because you've been teaching yoga for how many years to have one client turn away one client. That's incredible.
Yeah. And I think that's what's made this last year also really great is that our clients are amazing. Our students are amazing. So whenever we were learning through all of those experiences, everyone was so gracious.
People have been nothing but patient and kind with us because I think we display the same qualities towards them, right? Totally. And we give what we want to get back, and our community has been nothing but reciprocal in that way.
It's good karma for sure.
Yeah.
So the next question, I love this question, was why should I pay money for online yoga when there's so much free content out there? Do you want to touch that one first? Or?
Yeah. So I've actually had some people message me about this as well on my social media asking for just some free resources. And you know what? There's nothing wrong in offering free resources, especially dependent on people's financial situations and things like that, first and foremost. But there is just something to be said about the ability to connect in an online studio, especially in one like ours, with the quality that we deliver, with the care and the love and the time and the effort that we've put into it, as well as the teachers that we have and their ability to instruct, because I think that is second to none. Yeah. Our teachers are, and I'm not even saying this in a biased way, because I know before I even was on the team at Navina teaching, I was practicing here, and I was so amazed by just how the teachers here put in so much more, in my opinion, love and effort and care into delivering these quality classes that you just don't find online. Yeah. And they're very intuitive. Our whole team knows our community, knows our students, and whether you're new or you've been here for years, we take the time to get to know you. That's why we have goals written down on those waivers when we have those sheets. And I just think that there's a layer of intentionality that we put in that you just don't find in an online or a free, I should say, online class. What about you?
Well, I think that it's really important. There's a couple answers that I have, and you know, one is that we have to be very careful with. You know, we live in a world now where our attention is literally currency. So if we're watching these free platforms, and again, there's a time and place for it. If you can't afford it, and we've actually publicly said that, like, if you can't afford it and you're facing issues, like, reach out to us. We'll take care of you. Like, it's not about
it's not about the money,
profit, but we do want to provide a living for our teachers. Like, you have to. It's this interesting thing in yoga that you should be giving it out for free, but it just doesn't work that way when you live in North America. So I think that it's really important to understand, like Sarah said, the love that goes into some of these platforms. But also when you're looking at some of these free ones, is you're being sold something else. You're being sold a different product. And I've actually like looked at some of these because we talked about doing, you know, do we just do YouTube and just do free stuff and go for the advertisements? And we decided to go a different route. And I've watched some of these things and some of the advertisements that you're seeing beforehand. It just isn't in alignment with what yoga should be about. And I think that the most important thing is if it's something that brings you value, then there should be some sort of exchange for that. And that's whatever is within your means and whatever you can do. But if someone is truly bringing you a service that enhances your ability to feel good about your life and where you're at and your happiness level, I think you should give up something for that, whether it's you know, for us, it's money so that we can fuel and pay for the studio and pay for our instructors and things like that. But I think that there's a karmic exchange in everything that we do. And if it's something that brings you value, there should be an exchange for it, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. There's, again, nothing wrong with some things for free, but I think that was one of my right from when we opened, I'll be perfectly honest. Quite often studios do a free class for your first class. And we sometimes would honor that and do it, but we didn't just make that a public thing. And it would actually bother me a little bit because you would get people phone in and say, well, do you do a free class? And I'd said, no. We pay our teachers really well. We have a beautiful space. We use local products in the bathroom. Like you know, we put all this love into what we do. And I can't go downstairs and just say, hey, can I try your burger for free?
Right.
I just want to try it. Yeah. You know, and again, there's a time and a place for everything, but I think that free really devalues the service a little bit. So there's pros and cons.
Well, and anybody can post anything online too, right? Like I'm not knocking any teachers whatsoever, but
there's great ones out there.
There are some absolutely fantastic teachers out there. However, you don't always know the qualifications that these people are putting out there with this free content, and you don't always know that it's safe. And I know at Navina, not only do our teachers have a minimum teacher training certification, but then they also go through our Navina training as well, so that there's continuity and consistency and a level of safety to everything that we do as well.
And Caitlin, I'm really happy to see you say that the live stream classes provide a level of connection, because that's exactly what we want. Is there's still something to be said. And I think it was just last week, time flies right now, but I was actually able to do your Pilates class live. And because normally I'm an on-demand girl right now, just with the way my life is. And it was so nice just because I knew that you were in it. I knew our regulars were moving with me at that same time, and there was just something really special.
And having that ability to chat, and I know, I can only imagine from a student's perspective, because I've been on that veil of it as well, but on the other side of that veil, being a teacher, honestly, nothing is better than seeing those names pop up in the chat, because we can see how many viewers are tuned in. We don't know who's tuned in until you make it known on the chat. And so just to have, like this morning for the Pilates, I had my group of ladies, everybody was checking in, and it was just so nice to know that even though we're not there physically, we're still making at that time and that effort to connect. And it felt so good. And so as a teacher, I agree with you, Caitlin, too. That online studio for me as well has really offered that level of connection. So I'm really happy to hear that it's done the same for you too.
Yeah, it means the world to us when you
Honestly,
check in.
it does.
So before we go on to the next question, just a friendly reminder, we're getting closer to the end of the episode. So we want to hear from you as to how you plan on embodying connection this year. And just that simple answer is going to get you entered into that amazing prize pack. So make sure that you do that before the end of the episode. So moving on to another great question was, what does yoga give you and what does it take from you?
So for me, yoga gives me a space to connect. It gives me a space to practice strength, mindfulness, all of these qualities that I really highly value. And it also gives me the ability to let go of anxiety, of stress, of fear, self-doubts, limiting beliefs, all of these things that pull me back from being who I truly want to be and who I know I am as well. So it is a practice. That's why it's called that, not a perfect, but it has really changed my life beyond just the physical realm in so many different ways. And if it wasn't for this practice, I don't even know where I would be. It's just such a profound thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my answer is pretty much the same. Yoga has just given me this opportunity to be free in both my body and my mind. I get really stiff and I had to work really hard. I was a dancer all my life up until like my teenage years. So when I was really little, and then did it quite heavily when I was young. And I was so tight, so stiff. Like I always had to work so hard at moving my body. And I can't imagine now. I always, joke, but in sincerity say like if I didn't do yoga for a living, like I would be in trouble. I'd be in a lot of pain all the time. And so yoga is giving me the ability to feel good in everything I do. And it's really taken away a lot of anxiety and fear and a lot of grief. When I lost my dad, yoga was what got me through. There's no question. That was a really hard time for me naturally. And my yoga practice, I think, really saved me because I was working in an industry that was not so good. I was bartending, and when you're not happy and you're a bartender, it's really easy to go down a negative path.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so luckily I didn't, and but I definitely drank too much in those years and in that time, and so I was a yoga teacher at that time, right as I was transitioning, or as he transitioned into that. And passed away. That was when I was transitioning into a yoga teacher. So I was lucky that I was already in it, because if I had stayed in that service industry, I don't know what that would look like for me, because luckily I chose the path of yoga and health and wellness. But yeah, it's really changed that for me. What does it take from me? Anxiety, stress, all of that. And my husband would say that too, like before. He'd be like, just go do yoga, please.
Right? Yeah, just go have an hour for yourself. Just take this time.
Yeah, most definitely. And Caitlin, you're right on point with us. Limited social media time, and taking more time with friends and family and coworkers to really check in beyond the surface. I like that, because that's really important. We can always ask how are you, but then
how are you really?
Yeah.
How are you really doing? Because we all say, oh, I'm fine, I'm good, I'm busy, I'm tired. Yeah, but how are you really doing?
Well, and I've noticed too, and it's two specific people that I'm close to in my life, and I'll send a message to check in, and then they don't address certain parts of the conversation. I said, yeah, that's all great. I'm really happy work's going this way, blah blah blah. But you never addressed how you are.
Yeah.
You never address how this is landing, and so, and then it's like, LOL, ha ha ha, and I'm like, no,
nobody wants to talk about it, right? But then if we're not talking about how we're actually feeling, we're giving that space for those fears or those feelings to become bigger than what they should be. And if we can realize that we're bigger than our feelings, we're not our thoughts, a lot of things begin to shift. But we have to have those conversations, as uncomfortable as they are sometimes. They're so necessary to maintain that level of mental wellness.
Well, and that's why you have to take care of yourself, is so that you can hold space for other people, right? Because before, even 2 months ago, I wouldn't be able to hold space for that and actually be like, no, really, I want to know how you're doing. Like, dump on me. Tell me what you need to tell me. Like, I'm here for you to listen. And and that's okay. And we need to be those pillars for other people, but we need to make sure we have the strength ourselves to deal with it. And Caitlin, you're mentioning how, you know, you're spending more time on social media. I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong on the chat, but I'm willing to bet everyone that's tuned in right now is spending too much time on social media. So good for you for being on something that is intended to be nourishing here as we're here in the podcast. But I listen to a lot of that now. It's very rare now. I listen to music, which is actually pretty insane because I love music. But quite often now, this is what I listen to, is things like podcasts and try to not be so focused on. It's hard because now I do all the social media and I find I have to really create boundaries around that. And I feel like we just live in this world that has this expectation of instant response. And so now I try not to check our social media more than 3 times a day. And if you can't wait for more than 2 hours, then well, I normally I would say call the studio, but we're closed, so it's just a tough time.
Deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, like we can't be on from 8 a.m. and that's what's interesting about an online business, is that people expect you to be on all the time, and it just doesn't work that way. We need to have healthy boundaries. And you know, I grew up in like kind of the idea of like 48 hours response time. And I don't think that's appropriate for a business. I do agree that you should, if you email within business hours, you should get a response. But sometimes people will be Facebook messaging and I don't see it. Like I do my best.
And that's just it. I've seen when I was doing the social media up until our roles kind of flipped for a little while. We would get people messaging us on Facebook. Oh, can I sign up for this class in an hour? And it's like,
literally.
What? And you don't even see it sometimes until 2 days later, because those things, like I know for myself, a big part of setting boundaries for my social media is I went into my phone and I changed the settings on specifically my Instagram. So now I don't get those little, oh gosh, what are they called? Badges or banners or whatever. Like I actually have to go into the app to see that I have notifications. I don't get a little red bubble or a dot or whatever saying that I have notifications. So it's kind of almost like that out of sight, out of mind thing. And it's crazy how much less time I've been spending, because when I see that little red dot, I think, oh, I need to check that. What is it? What if it's something important? Who could it be? Usually it's a freaking spam thing saying like, oh, do you want 10,000 followers with the click of a button? Like ridiculous, right? But like we are just so conditioned to look at our phones and even feeling that vibrate in your pocket. Like I read or watched this really amazing documentary on Netflix called The Minimalists. And I
watched it actually.
Did you watch it? So good.
Yeah, it is good.
But they talk about, again, the same kind of thing, how we're just so conditioned and addicted to our phones, and the more that we can start to kind of minimize our screen time and realize that we don't need to be on all the time. It's a crazy thing, but it's hard. Like we're literally addicted to our phones.
Yeah, literally. And stop, my friend, stop apologizing when you're responding to a text message an hour later. Like it's
fine.
You have to stop doing that. So another question is, this is interesting, and I actually don't even know how I would answer. So I guess I better figure it out. But what is one thing that you cannot live without?
Oh man, I thought about this question too, and there's a couple things that I was like, what's one thing? There's a few things though. Like I know, especially for me, like my dog Tuka, I can't live without him. He has been a constant source of happiness for me. He is always there. He's always present. He is like Monroe. He'll let you know when you need to be present, and he's such a good reminder for that kind of stuff. So him, that's one thing I can't live without. But for me, in terms of maintaining this connection, this self-care for myself, I can't live without good sleep. I have realized I am a completely different person when I'm not getting a good night's rest. And since I have prioritized my sleep and my nutrition these last 6 months, I don't know. I have so much more energy. I feel like myself in a way that I haven't felt in a really, really long time. And it's a good feeling. And now to sacrifice that, I'm not willing to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't live without good sleep. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the easy answers obviously are family and my dog too. I can't even imagine what it would be without them. But I think as a new mom, part of me is just like coffee. I can't live without coffee. Most of what I drink is decaf because I am nursing. But I actually, in all reality, can in seriousness say that I legitimately like love my coffee and value that so much so that I paid a lot of money a couple weeks ago at a local spot for a coffee, and it didn't bother me one bit because it was made with love and it was delicious.
I know where it's from.
I know.
So good.
And it was so worth it. But anyway, so definitely coffee is, it doesn't even have to have caffeine. That was one thing I was actually really surprised in my pregnancy, was that I thought I would struggle more with wine. I love red wine. And, you know, every time we had Sunday dinners and things like that, I mean, obviously there were times where we weren't doing that during COVID, but there were times where we were. And it was allowed. And yeah, it didn't bother me at all to not have wine. It was coffee that really bothered me.
So you had a good decaf though, we were chatting about earlier.
Yeah, I found that Salt Spring was the best. A little plug for them. That was the best one I could find. And but yeah, that's my go-to in the morning. I love that. First thing I do have is water with lemon, but coffee is my go-to. Absolutely. Bobby Joe has also turned off her notifications. Yeah, it just makes a big difference. I did that years ago. I can't even imagine what it would be like to have that constant dinging. That is one thing that drives me crazy in a meeting. So I'm on the board here at the building, and that is one thing that drives me crazy, is when people have their phones on loud and they're notifying them during a meeting. It literally gets under my skin a little bit. Or I was listening to a podcast, an actual like pretty reputable podcast. Yeah. And the host didn't say anything. The guests just had their little dinger going off. I listen to Joe Rogan podcast quite a lot, and he's so funny because if anyone has that, he'll be like, turn that shit off.
Yeah, you know, he
like literally. And it's just, it is like, that comes back to being present, right? Yeah. Like we don't need to be constantly reminded that there's something else. And like you said, it's usually something crap.
It's nothing. It's usually spam, nothing.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you have your notifications, I'd actually be impressed with that, because I don't, it's been years and years and years since I've had notifications on my phone. Okay. So last but not least, let's come into this last question. So you've got about 5 minutes to get in your responses, if you haven't already, as to how you plan on embodying connection this year. And that will get you entered into our prize pack. So the question says, it starts with a comment, you both give so much to the community and pour love into all of your classes. You show up and always seem to have it together for us. How or what do you do for yourselves to ensure you are getting all the self-love for you?
I think for myself, what really drives me is just this community. And as much as the community shows us love, I want to show that same love back. And I really feel fulfilled doing what I do, because I know that I am living my purpose by showing up here and giving out as much love as I can. And in terms of receiving that love, like I feel it from the chat, from the emails that we get, the testimonials, and well, up until, what was it, 2 weeks ago, like for those 3 weeks that we could have people back in studio. It's so good to see and connect with people, and to have those reminders that we are a lot more loved than we know, or than maybe we realize. And so for me too, so as much as I show up for the studio and for others, I also have to make sure that I'm showing up for myself. So I'm always making sure that I move my body every day, but then I'm also doing something in terms of self-care every day, whether that's taking time to read my book or meditate. Meditation I've really gotten back into my meditation practice these last few months. And again, it has really allowed me to create a space just to sit with where I am every day. And not every day is great, I'll be honest, but it is always so good to have that awareness of how I'm actually doing. And to me, nothing is more loving than loving yourself through your shit. So yeah. What about you?
So for me, I mean, I've kind of mentioned it already, but journaling has been a big thing for me that I kind of tend to shy away from, because it's uncomfortable to really dig into all of that.
It is.
And it also creates a deep sense of vulnerability to even put that to paper, right? To write it out is so different. And so I've really, really enjoyed the process of just checking in with how I am. And especially so much has changed for me in the last few months. I don't know who I am because being a new mom, it's completely different. And my roles have shifted and I love it. And so I've really made sure that journaling is a big thing, and I really make sure it's challenging to let go of my phone because it is so connected at work. But I have really, really made sure that I take time where I go on my walk and I don't check my phone and I don't do those things. The only thing that will kind of interrupt that is my family, and then I'll obviously connect with them. But other things I put boundaries on as to when I need to respond to those things. And for me, it really is just, again, like I said, my movement is my medicine. So I have to do something for myself, and every day it's totally different. Lately, it has been, I've been pretty exhausted. So it's been, like I told you before, I totally fell asleep in Odessa's yin class last night, and I did a twist for about 45 minutes and woke up and it was like 11:45. I was like, oh goodness. So I balanced out on one side for about 5 minutes. So no, I didn't balance out, I guess. But yeah, I feel that I need that check-in. And sometimes it takes me, I think Jess's yin class took me 3 nights to finish this week because it was an hour-long class. And that's okay. I press play until I feel good. And as soon as I get dozy, I start to doze off and that's totally fine. So that's been really important for me, is just taking that time. And, yeah, I mean, we said it so many times, but it really is, we have to put ourselves first, and we have to have that self-care routine. And I think when it comes into living our values and being authentic, because it's so challenging right now, and so much of what we're facing is, I mean, some of it is straight up unfair, what we're facing. And then some of it is just like mind boggling. Some of it's really frustrating. And I think the more and more we get into this, the more the conversations, everything is so surrounded by what we're going through naturally, but everyone's so sick of it. Right. So it's interesting to find that strength to talk about something different.
Well, and I think too, like the way that we love ourselves, the way that we show up for ourselves, and the way we choose to connect with ourselves are how we also love, connect, and work with the world around us and the people around us. And so by having those healthy foundations internally, only make those connections that we have with the outside world stronger. Because if we're not loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves in a healthy way, then we can't be expected to do the same for others. If we don't know how, or if we don't have those healthy practices. So it's work, and it's exhausting, and we're all so freaking tired of all of this, I'm sure, but we have to keep going. We are resilient. We know that last year has proved that. And now it's about sustaining that resiliency as well.
And not rushing back into this busyness, right?
No.
So it's like, what are you, I wrote about it in the newsletter this month about like, what are you willing to not rush back to? And what are you, you know, what are you happy with? I think a lot of people have valued more staying at home, and just being with your family and really connecting those cherished moments. But circling back to just taking care of yourself and taking that time, because it really is the most important thing you can do. And you're way better off. I know that I'm a better mom if I take the time to just connect a little bit with myself.
I'm a better instructor. I'm a better person when I take the time for myself, because it's easy to fall back into those habits and just move into that like automatic state. We're not autopilot, if you will. We're not even really thinking. We're just going through the motions of the everyday. And with these days being not essentially all the same, but when find ourselves in these similar routines each and every day at home, it can be easy to fall into that autopilot. So we have to make sure that we're checking ourselves so that we don't wreck ourselves.
Exactly. And so to kind of, I guess, maybe answer, we went off on a little bit of tangent on that question, but to circle back to give that a conclusion, I know that I can speak for Sarah as well. It does not work for me to show up here and to really put in my 100% into a class. That's not work for me. Sometimes it's work getting into the car. I won't lie. That can be work. That's the work. But once I walk through these doors, it's not work because it is so genuine for me, and it is reciprocal. So I am not going to do anything but give my absolute best because I'm so passionate about what I do and the possibilities that are created when you step on your mat. And we mean it with sincerity when we say thank you for sharing your energy, because we know that it's valuable. And so when I leave here, I can come here in a not so great mood, and I've never left here in a not so great mood.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually just finished listening to, it's not Brene Brown's newest podcast, but one of her recent episodes that she had this amazing clinical psychologist, Dr. Edith something. Anyway, she's a Holocaust survivor, and talks about connection and love and letting go of these labels that others place upon us, we place upon us, and all of these amazing things. And she ended the podcast by saying, and it's a quote in her book, about how the most valuable gift we can give to anybody that we truly love or care about is time. And for me to give my time here to people who receive it so well, and to show up for themselves and give their time to me, it's easy. It's not even a second thought. Like, just for like you yoga students, us yoga students, I should say, the hardest part of this entire practice is literally just getting on our mats. Once we walk through these doors, we have done the hardest work of all, and everything that we do from here on out is a celebration of our bodies and our minds and everything that they do for us each and every day. So we're just nourishing our ability to be well every time that we show up for ourselves in this way, as a teacher, a student, whatever we are.
Yeah. And that's the thing. So last chance, by the way, on that chat to enter our contest. It's a very simple ask. How do you plan on embodying connection this year? You know, it's just so important. And I think that we spend so much of our time at work that if you're not feeling nourished by your work, that's like my I just love that word, nourishing, and your job should be nourishing. And it doesn't mean that part of it is not work and that you just show up and love every part of it. Again, sometimes it's work to get into the vehicle and you're tired, but if it doesn't nourish you and it doesn't make you feel better, and if you dread every Monday, then you're missing the point of why we're here on this planet. And you have, I guarantee, so much more to give if you just dig a little bit into why you're doing what you're doing. And that's where things like personal investigation is so important, right? And that's why we say this practice is so much more than touching your toes and all of that, because it really is just so important we spend too much time working to not
we weren't here, we're not put on this earth to pay bills and to get Botox. We're here to make connections and to find and live out our purpose, because that is what being, to me, a human is all about.
Yeah, and that's why we're really stressed about, or not stressed, but we really stressed the question, how to live authentically. So that's something we will continue to weave through as we do have guests, and as we do. The next podcast that we have is just going to be me and you.
Yep.
And and then we have a very special guest coming, and so Odessa is going to be our first guest, which we're super pumped about.
Spoiler alert!
Sorry, Odessa, but we spilled the beans.
We're so excited.
Super pumped about that. I had a conversation with her the other day, and she did confirm, so I can say it out loud. But yeah, we're really excited about that. And then we've got some good guests lined up. We've got some fun stuff lined up for the year, and we still truly want to hear from you. So feedback, we literally crave it.
Yep.
And don't be shy about it. We want to know how
good,
we can
bad,
serve
all of
you
it.
better. You bet. It's actually, we love hearing the positive things, and our community is nothing but positive. But we want to hear how we can be better.
Yeah,
and how
I love learning. Like, that's the only way that we can get better, is if we get that feedback, that constructive criticism sometimes. And we know how to take it. We're yogis. We are practicing the art of letting go.
Totally.
But it's always nice to have that honest feedback, so that we can grow from it and offer you whatever it is that you're wanting from this podcast, just as we're learning as well with you.
Exactly. So with that, we have one more answer, which is wonderful. And that's to take time every day. For me, even if it's just 5 minutes to meditate. So that's incredible, Bobby Joe, just because like it doesn't, I think that's a really good way to kind of finish this off, is that it doesn't need to be perfect and it doesn't need to be this big amount. You can shift things in as little as 5 minutes. Like it is, well, hence why the 5-minute journal, right?
Well, and there's literally scientific studies that show that even 5 minutes of mindfulness a day can change how your brain is wired. So you can literally rewire your brain to change its thought patterns. So if you are one of those people, I was one for a long, long time that just had this perpetually negative mindset because I wasn't happy for the things that were already in my life. I wanted this. I wish I had that. I wish I looked like this. I wish I could do that. And all of these expectations that I had put upon myself just led to all of these thoughts and habits. And so when you start to literally take the time, it's 5 minutes. That's all you need to do to weave in mindfulness throughout your day. Your thoughts literally change. Your brain literally changes. And it's incredible what that can do for a person. And so, yeah, Bobby Joe, that's amazing. I'm so happy to hear that you do that, especially with having that little one at home too. I could only imagine how busy you must be as a mama too. So yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah. So we'll stop this glorification of busy and we'll take time. If we can shower, we can take 5 minutes for ourselves.
Find gratitude in the shower.
Totally. Right. And as a new mom, the shower is the best thing. It's a win if you get one. There you go. But in all seriousness, take the time for yourself, prioritize yourself. You are worth it. We need to start doing that more, and we need to honor other people's decisions to do that for themselves as well. And hold space for that. And, thank you so much. And thank you, Bobby Joe, for saying just be you, because that's why we're here, right? This is probably one of the reasons why we procrastinated on the podcast for so long, is because you're worried about being judged and you're worried about being, but what you'll look like, right? So one of my pieces of advice for authenticity was focus on what it feels like. And I think that, and one of Sarah's was just live into your values. So I think
staying connected to your values is important too. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. We'll stop that. And thank you for joining us, everyone. This was our first live experience.
So excited.
We appreciate you. Thanks, Miss Alicia, for being behind the scenes. And most importantly, thanks for tuning in. Oh, one more thing we've got to mention.
We should mention how we're going to announce this contest.
I'll leave that to you, Sarah.
So you can join me. So this Sunday, I teach a modern yoga practice at 9:15. So right in between that and the Pilates practice that I teach, at 10:30, we're going to be doing the draw live on Instagram. So you'll check out our stories for that. So make sure you have like 30 seconds left to get your answers in if you want to still be entered. And we'll be doing the draw at 10:30 live on Instagram this Sunday.
And if you're not tuned in, we'll reach out to you. So don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. If you don't have Instagram, it's fine. We'll let you know if you've won. But yeah, it'll be a great way to tune in. And again, just continue this connection even more.
And if you don't win, online members, stay tuned for your email on Monday, because I have something special coming to you. We're also doing another fun contest for all of our online community. So stay tuned, everyone. We'll stay connected. We love you and appreciate all that you do. And we miss you
so much. We'll see you soon, everybody.
Namaste.
Namaste.